Um, when we talk about Western religions, we usually mean the Abrahamic religions. And Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three religions respect Abraham, Yabulahan. He's a character in the Bible, and he's considered the ancestor of Jews and Muslims, and the Christians like him too. So these three religions are called the Abrahamic religions. I hope you know all these words, otherwise it will be confusing. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and there are some others that are smaller, but never mind them. I'll just talk about these three. They're all related. They tell a lot of the same stories, they have a lot of the same beliefs, but they also fight each other, so like a family. By the way, Christianity, when I say Christianity, this often confuses Chinese people. In English, Catholics, Tianjujiao, are a kind of Christian. So Christians are the big group. Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, Mormons, etc. are all different kinds of Christians. So in Chinese, this is hard to say. I'm not sure why that happened. So they don't all like each other either, but they are related. So these are the main Abrahamic religions, and I promise to make them easy, or at least say as much as I can. That will be easy. So, how old are they? Judaism, Yutaiyang. Hard to say. Some parts of the Hebrew Bible are about 3,000 years old. A lot of the religion kind of got started about 16 or 1700 years old, so less than 2,000 years, and it's changing all the time. So it's hard to say when it started. Christianity, well, Jesus, early 1st century AD. That's easy, right? He might not be, he actually belonged to this religion and took a lot of things from it. And a lot of the basic things you know from Christianity started later. But okay, let's say 1st century AD, 2,000 years ago. That's easy. Islam, Muhammad, 7th century AD. Actually, the Muslims say that Abraham was the first Muslim. But never mind. Historically speaking, it was Muhammad. So that's an easy answer to how old are these religions. And there are some newer ones that are also in the same tradition, like the Baha'is. Their founder was from the 19th century. If you ever meet a Baha'i, then now you know where they came from. Let's see. What is their holy book? Well, there's the Bible. But what is the Bible? For Christians, the Bible, there's the Old Testament and the New Testament. 旧约, 新约. For Jews, there's just the Old Testament. The New Testament is the part about Jesus. Jews don't accept that. Jesus is not a part of their religion. The Christians do accept the Old Testament. That is part of their religion. The Old Testament has the stories of Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Moses, David, and so on. And that's the part you're most likely to know about. For Jews, the most important part of the Old Testament is the first 5 books. They call this the Torah, which means law. So the law, God gave laws to various people, and we are supposed to follow these laws. Some of them. Some of them are only for men, some are only for women, some of them can't be followed. But for Christians, the most important part of their Bible is the beginning of the New Testament, which is the Gospels. They tell the story of Jesus. So for Christians, the most important part of the Bible is the part about Jesus. The part that's not in the Old Testament. So, the Old Testament is written in Hebrew, Shibolayu. The New Testament is in Greek, Shilawan. And Muslims have a completely different book, the Quran, and that's in Arabic. It's a different kind of book. The Old and New Testaments have everything in them. There are stories, histories, song lyrics, letters, strange dreams that somebody had, all mixed together. The Quran was all from the same source. It's all one collection of revelations from one source. An important thing to remember is Muslims say that the Quran was written by God, not by Muhammad. So, if you believe that, you probably are a Muslim. So, if you're not a Muslim, you probably think that Muhammad did it, but it's not polite to say so. Mormons have their own holy books too. Mormons are a kind of Christian, but they have extra books, such as the Book of Mormon, which is now a musical too. Well, it's the name of the musical. God. All of these religions believe in God. One God. They all believe there is one God, and most of the people in them believe that they all worship the same God. There's a few people who don't agree. They're a little weird. So, Jews, they say, there's a famous prayer, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one God. They say this, they sing it every Shabbat. But many Jews don't believe in God. So, at most, there is one God. Muslims agree with this. One God. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. So the other gods that you might have heard of, they don't exist. And Muhammad is his prophet. Also, Jesus was also a prophet of God. And Abraham and Moses, they were all prophets. But Muhammad was the last one, they said. Christians, they're the weird one in this group. They believe, yes, there was one God, but there is the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. They are three, but they are one God. Now, some of you are probably thinking this is hard to understand. Yes, it is. That's the best I can do. If you think about it longer and study it, maybe it will be easier. I don't know. It's a mystery for everyone. What this means is, Jesus is God, and He's the Son of God. These are both true. It's a little weird, but this is good theology. And Muslims say, no, this is wrong. The Muslims say, God cannot have children. This is ridiculous. He doesn't have a body. There is only one God, so you can't put other people next to God. That's wrong. So they disagree. They do agree on something. They agree that other religions, which have many gods, And sometimes they make statues of God and worship the statue. That's wrong. They all agree on that, at least in the tradition. Yes, there are some religions like that around here. Buddhists and Taoists and so on. Well, you can ask your Christian Muslim friends what they think of Buddhism. It's not that simple. Some Jews are Buddhists. There are Jew Buddhists. But normally the tradition says having more than one God is wrong, and you certainly should not make a statue of God. So there is this tension. This is a big difference between the Abrahamic religions and other religions. Hinduism and Buddhism, for instance. How many of them are there? Christians are the biggest religion on the planet. There's 82 billion of them if you count everybody. It's hard to count because how do you know do you count the people who go to church, or the people who say they are in this religion, or do you just say everyone in the country is a member if they belong to a Christian country? It's not easy to know. Muslims, they say it's about 1 billion. That includes everybody. Most of this billion are not deeply religious. They'll believe in the religion, but they won't follow it very closely. Jews, they say maybe 14 million. This is a number I've seen. But again, we don't know exactly how to count them. They don't all belong to the same group. We're just guessing. So maybe this is a useful number. I hope so. That's the best I can do. What you can clearly see is these two religions are much larger than this one. There are not very many Jews in the world, and there probably will be fewer in the future because of their aging population. Christians and Muslims are growing. But Jews are still extremely important because, well, many of them have done great things, like Einstein and Karl Marx and lots of other people. So Jesus, I guess we can include Jesus. So even though it's a much smaller religion, we have to group it with the others. We're not allowed to ignore it. So, here's an important consideration. Is there anything they can't eat or drink? Well, yes, but it depends. These are simple answers, but the real answer is much more complicated. The traditional answer, there are many things Jews can't eat, especially pork. Jura. Muslims agree, no pork. But some Jews and some Muslims will eat pork. That's against the tradition, but it happens. There are many other Jewish rules. I told you about not mixing meat and milk. So no cheeseburgers. Now, this is only if you're Jewish. If you're not Jewish, you can eat anything you want, except other people. That's that. Muslims are supposed to not drink alcohol. In fact, many Muslims do drink alcohol. So this is what what the tradition says they should do, not what they actually do. Christians, the Christian tradition mostly says, most Christian groups think that they can eat anything. There are exceptions. Mormons are an interesting example. Their tradition says they should not drink coffee or alcohol. Why? They're not sure. It says that, but it doesn't really say why. The Adventists say many Adventists are vegetarians. This is another Christian group. So there are exceptions. And sometimes, right now in Islam, right now is the month of Ramadan. Muslims are supposed to not eat or drink anything during the day, but at night they have big parties. Still no pork or alcohol, but they do feast. Christians don't have Ramadan, but they have something kind of like that. Some Christian groups, like the Catholics, have fasting periods. And they will, and some tradition says they will not eat meat during the fasting periods. But fish is not meat. Fish is okay. It's a little funny because fasting food is actually very good. Lots of cheese and eggs. You can gain weight when you're fasting. But this every Christian group is slightly different. Different countries are slightly different. So it's hard to generalize. Mostly the Christian tradition says the Jewish rules are no longer true. You can eat what you want, except human flesh and other bad things like that. So remember this when you invite your Muslim or Jewish friends for dinner. Where are there holy places? Most Jewish holy places are in Israel, the country we now call Israel, Yisrael. Moshe received the Ten Commandments in a mountain in Egypt. So that's in Egypt. Noah, his ark, his boat landed on a mountain. They say that mountain is in what is now eastern Turkey. So some Bible stories happen in other countries. And those are holy places too. But mostly Israel. Christian, if you want to go on a Christian pilgrimage, they recognize everywhere, the same places, plus the places where Jesus lived, which are in Israel, what is now Israel. Jesus also went, when he was a baby, his parents took him to Egypt, and then they went back. So Egypt is also a holy place. And St. Paul traveled all over the Mediterranean, so Cyprus and Italy and many other places. So the Christian tradition has other holy places. And depending on what denomination, what kind of Christian you are, there are holy places for each church. Catholics might want to go to Rome, or to almost any Catholic country will have a holy place of some kind. Lourdes or Fatima, etc. Protestants have some too, but this tradition of making pilgrimages is less strong. You see a lot of Christian pilgrims in Israel. If you go to Israel, you'll see lots of Christian groups going there on pilgrimage. Muslims, well, you've all seen this on TV. Mecca and Medina, the two holy cities in what is now Saudi Arabia. Those are the two holy cities that every Muslim should see once in their life. And you should see them during the Hajj month, a special time when you make a pilgrimage. There are things you have to do. You have to apply. You can't just go. You have to apply through a special council in your country. They only take so many people. Jerusalem is the third holy city of Islam. although most Muslims aren't able to go because of political reasons. The Prophet Muhammad visited, according to the story, he visited Jerusalem during the night. He went to sleep in Arabia, and during the night was taken to Jerusalem and then into heaven. Was it a dream? Was it really? It's not clear. Different people say different things. But the story is loved by Muslims. They'll draw pictures of his horse. Sometimes it has a horse with wings or a donkey with wings and a human face. You can see this great art and pictures of the seven heavens. So that means Jerusalem is a holy city for three religions. These three, which is partly why they fight over it. There are other holy places for Muslims in other countries. I know more about the Shiites, the Shia. There's Qum and Najaf and Karbala and Mashhad. These are all cities in Iraq and Iran. If you like Rumi, the Mevlevi founder, he was a Sunni and a Sufi. He is buried in Konya, in what is now Turkey. You can visit that place. And once a year, they have the Sufis come from all over the world, and they dance with the whirling dance there. So that's just a few places that are significant to Muslims. So there are many different places in the world that you might go on pilgrimage, and a few that are especially important, and they're concentrated in Israel and in Arabia. So, one more. If you can't go there, well, at least you can go to a regular meeting. You probably all know that Christians go to church on Sunday, except the Adventists who go on Saturday. Or, technically, according to Jewish tradition, the day starts at sundown. So Saturday night to Sunday night is Sunday. That means if you're Catholic, you can probably go to Mass on Saturday night, because that's really Sunday. Jews, their day is Saturday, which starts on Friday night to Saturday sundown. And the place where they go is not called a church. They're called synagogues. Synagogue is Greek for assembly. Some of them are called temples. A temple could be almost any religion. But synagogue is a good broad word. And the Muslim, their big day is Friday, the Jummah service. And the English word for the place where they go is a mosque. In Arabic, it's called masjid. So you might want to remember that word too, if you're asking for one. So it's interesting. They disagree on the day, but they all have the idea that you should go once a week to a big assembly. Although some Baptists, when I was growing up in Texas, some of the Baptists believe you should go to church twice a week. Once on Sunday for a prayer meeting. I guess they were just twice as religious as everyone else. So, I could also tell you about their holidays, but that's much more complicated. It's easy to remember the Christian holidays. There's Christmas and Easter. But there are a number of Christian Jewish holidays, and the Muslim holidays vary a lot so I'll ignore that. there's one thing that all three religions agree on, and that's when you pray, and when you're finished praying, Christians will do this, Muslims will sometimes do this, Jews might sway back and forth. But when they're finished praying, all three religions say Amen or Amin. So, Amen. Here endeth the lesson, and I guess that will be a wrap then. How are we doing for time? What can I use small? There we go. Oh, that was pretty good. Okay. That's about 30 minutes, right? Yep. So, well, do you want to ask me some questions? Maybe be on TV? If you want to join or visit, more likely visit any of these religions, two of them are located close to here. There is a mosque in, I think there's one in Taoyuan, and there are two in Taipei. There are churches everywhere. Yep. They're easy to find. If you want to visit Jews, you have to go to Taipei. You can find them on the internet. But they will welcome you. And if you're lucky, they may give you some wine and some food. And who knows? Maybe they'll come and visit your religions. Yes, like I said, that there's a tradition that they hate idol worship and reject other gods. Abraham, actually, according to the story, he destroyed his father's gods. This isn't in the Bible. This is a Jewish story. His father worshipped statues of gods. Abraham smashed them. But relations are better today, and people from these religions and others fight sometimes, but other people have dialogue. There's interreligious dialogue when people from different religions get together and talk to each other about their beliefs and world peace and stuff like that. So if you want to get involved in that, perhaps you could represent your religion, whatever that might be, and meet some strange and interesting new friends. So something to keep in mind for if you are curious about religion, about other religions, then once you start studying, you'll be hooked. There's no end to it.